At this time, I'll call the regular meeting of the Wallingford Inland Wetlands and Watercourse Commission to order. The date is January 6th, and this is a virtual meeting. Please join me to pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
Republic.
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, under God, with liberty and justice for all. I screwed up.
It's okay.
I got it screwed up. It's one of those nights. Okay, this is a virtual meeting. There's some guidelines. No, we don't want everybody talking at once. If it gets out of control, I may mute you. But we're going to try and run a meeting and get through the meeting as smoothly as possible. Hopefully every month virtual, I get a little better at it, but I'm not promising anything. Okay, roll call. Let's see, I'll call Nick.
Kern.
Hey, Allie.
Eileen McKean.
Allie McKean. Where to go? Robert.
Robert Simon.
Jennifer.
Jennifer Passeroni.
Who am I missing here? Am I missing anybody, Aaron? Oh, Deb Phillips.
Me. Deborah Phillips.
Okay, Jim Vitale. And Aaron.
Erin O'Hare, Environmental Planner, and Recording Secretary, Kathleen. Down there, I see her. Hi, Kathy.
Okay, and we are missing Mike.
Mike Caruso.
Cusino, is that it? We got everybody else? I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, going on to consideration of the minutes of the previous listed special meeting remote of December 2nd. I think it was a special meeting because it got shifted, didn't it, Aaron? Why did it become a special meeting?
Because it was remote.
Okay, so
Actually, I'm sorry. I stand corrected. It's not a special meeting. It's a regular meeting.
it's a regular meeting.
The December 2nd was a regular meeting because it was at the right time and the right place.
You
All
sure
our
it wasn't?
meeting-
Sure it
all our
wasn't a
meetings
day
were-
meeting?
If I recall, we might have tabled approving the minutes last time. Or we didn't do the November 10th special meeting approval, maybe.
Oh, no,
Hello?
they're approved. Yeah, they're
Kathleen?
approved.
I did. Kathleen Burns here. The special meeting of November 10th minutes were approved on December 2nd also.
December 2nd was a Wednesday.
Was a regular meeting.
The
Okay,
regular
so,
November 4 and the special meeting remote November 10. Both were approved separately.
Yes.
Each was approved separately on December 2nd.
okay, so December 2nd is the regular meeting. It was not a special meeting.
Correct.
And we have the minutes here, and I'm looking for a motion to approve or deny the regular minutes. Or the minutes of the regular meeting of December 2nd.
This is Deborah Phillips. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that the minutes of the regular meeting on December 2nd, 2020 be accepted as submitted.
Is there a second?
Robert Simon seconds the motion.
A motion made and second. Any other discussion? I'll call for a vote. Nick?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Allie?
Yes.
And Jim? Yes. Okay. All right, going down into old business application A 20-7.1. This is 5 and 21 Tully's Road in Warrenton Brook, Pfizer. Okay, now this is the commission, and the public will tell the public that it's a soil remediation program. A lot of time has been spent. An outside consultant has been hired to work with Aaron And I think that's who's going to generate the first part of this application review. Or is it going to be the applicant?
If I may speak, Chairman,
Yeah.
the peer reviewer suggested the typical approach is you have the applicant go first. In his experience, the applicant goes first and then the peer reviewer. He today asked me to set it up in that order.
And, Lucas, go ahead, Lucas.
Okay. Thank you very much, Commission. Thank you to Mr. Sanford for joining this evening. He represents Malone McBroom, the peer review. I'm here with Kyle Apigian. He and I work for Woodard & Curran. Our local office is in Middletown, Connecticut. I'm the project engineer and Kyle is our wetland specialist for this project. And what I'd like to do is just kind of go through what was accomplished since the last meeting, bring the commission up to speed in terms of the peer review itself. That was really the work that was conducted since the November Inland Wetlands meeting. Malone and McBroom performed the peer review, or they're in the process of performing the peer review. The peer review was initiated with a site walk on November 2nd. Malone McBroom then reviewed the application materials and they prepared a letter with comments that was dated November 13. There were a total of 13 comments that were included in that letter. In response to that letter, Woodard & Curran then prepared a letter to provide responses to each of the comments, and that letter was dated December 4. We also provided some attachments to that letter to really address comments that were raised during the peer review, and those two attachments consisted of a new drawing sheet that was incorporated into the project drawings. It was a cut and fill analysis that we performed, and what that analysis demonstrated was that there will be no net fill within the project limits or within the floodway itself. We also prepared an invasive species management plan, and currently, and this was a figure that was included with the plan, but currently the wetland area that is to be remediated or proposed for remediation, there's approximately 30% of that area, so almost 30% of that area is covered by dense population of invasive species growth. And as part of that original plan, we proposed reducing that number down to 20%. And of course, as an excavation project, which is what this is, that would remove all of the soil to varying depths within that project area and remove that superficial cover of invasives. Another comment that was included in that original set of comments from the peer review was to conduct supplemental soil sampling for macronutrients and organic carbon content. We went ahead, we performed that sampling on November 24th, and we had the laboratory analysis expedited as part of that sampling event. We ended up submitting that data at a later time, which I'll discuss. Malone and McBroom then reviewed our December 4 letter, and they provided a second letter, which was dated December 22nd. In that letter, they indicated that of the original 13 comments, 7 of those had been satisfied or addressed. There were 6 outstanding comments that needed some further discussion, and there were also 2 additional comments which Malone and McBroom provided. So in response to the December 22nd letter, which was the second Malone and McBroom letter, we then prepared another response to comments, and that was dated December 29. We submitted that last week. And in that letter, we addressed 7 of the 8 comments because there were 6 that needed some further information, and there were 2 new ones. We addressed the 8th comment in a short letter that we submitted this afternoon. As part of that letter submitted last week, we attached several different documents. We attached a summary of the laboratory analytical data from that supplemental soil sampling event that was performed on November 24th. We also provided a complete set of revised project drawings. And the purpose of those drawings was to essentially incorporate all of the edits that were requested through the peer review process and bring our drawing set to its current state. I'd also like to let Kyle talk about another attachment, which was the revised invasive species management plan.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kyle Apigian. As Luke mentioned, I'm the wetland scientist on the project. We did provide an updated, revised invasive species management plan with additional details about the approach to controlling invasives at the site prior to, during, and then during the long-term monitoring phase after the project's complete. There are provisions in that plan for even more detailed evaluation of the conditions at the site and reporting of the conditions at the site when just prior to the work beginning. Say in some cases, some of the specific invasive species control strategies are seasonally dependent and dependent on precisely what's out there at the time. So we want to be able to tailor that to the time when the work begins and get some additional information about coverage out there during the growing season. As Luke mentioned, we also have updated the long-term monitoring performance standard for invasive species cover from 20% down to 10% allowable coverage, which we believe is reasonable for a project like this, particularly where the primary focus is on soil remediation. And it's very consistent with other state and federal projects that we've worked on and that have been permitted. It is important, and we took a lot of factors into consideration with that, and it is really important to remember that this entire area in the floodplain is surrounded really with a lot of different types of invasive species. So those are going to be continually invading into the site, even well beyond the monitoring period for this project. And in addition, the area does occasionally flood, which is another source of potential invasive species into the project area. So we're expecting that this work and the ongoing treatment, the herbicide and cutting treatments that could be implemented will result in improved conditions. And there is going to be an ongoing effort to control these invasive species throughout the site and during the monitoring period. So in addition, the establishment of the planted plants, the planted species, the seed mixture, germination is all going to help keep invasives out once those get established. So we are, we do hope to target a 10% coverage or less than 10%, where obviously any invasive species observed at the site will be treated, but just in terms of the performance standard, that's what we'd like to target, is that 10% level or less. The other item that we wanted to address relative to long-term monitoring at the site is in the December 22nd letter and in other instances, the monitoring plan has been referred to as a 10-year monitoring plan over a 10-year period. And just as a point of clarification, we really want to stress that the goal at this site is to meet ecological performance standards and to have a functioning, healthy ecological community out there. The monitoring's planned for up to 10 years with a potential for reduced time period, as long as those restoration metrics and those performance standards are met, including the invasive species coverage. So we just want to make sure that that's clear in among the communications that that really, you know, we've established this 10-year period, but it's really the ecological performance standards that we're focused on. So it could be a shorter monitoring period if those are met.
Thanks, Todd.
Mhm.
Thank you. So kind of moving on, we did provide one more response letter earlier today. It was a very brief letter to address the final comment that was in the Malone McBroom December 22nd letter. And Malone McBroom also provided one more letter today. And the summary of that letter is that they performed some additional analysis and they indicated that backwater from the Quinnipiac River would not hydraulically impact the project. And perhaps Matthew can speak to that if he'd like. So at the current stage, we have addressed all the comments that have been provided by the commission and through the peer review process. As you remember, we did prepare a comprehensive contingency plan for flooding. We also prepared an invasive species management plan, and both of these plans will be used during the project. We do believe the project is ready to implement based on all the review work that was done. And we do believe that it will improve the overall environmental quality of the wetland by removing the nickel impacted soil, which is the purpose of the project. It's a regulatory requirement by Connecticut Deep. And we do believe that the project is ready to be implemented. And I'll pause with that, Chairman.
Okay, you're going to pause, but what are you going to do? You're going to bring a peer review on? Is that your plan?
I think that's the next step here. Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, good evening. For the record, it's Matthew Sanford, professional wetland scientist, registered soil scientist with Malone and McBroom /SLR, located at 99 Realty Drive in Cheshire, Connecticut.
Matt, excuse me a minute. You got a very bad echo going on in your system. At least I'm hearing it at this end. It's
Yes.
repeating everything.
Is this better?
We lost you on the picture, I think.
I can see him.
You see him?
I see him.
Yeah,
Oh, I see you.
I think I'm still here.
Okay.
So, all right. So I've removed myself from the echo, I believe, and I'm on my cell phone now, but I still have a picture of everybody. Again, we were retained by the town to complete an independent third-party review of the project. I'm getting an echo right now. So I'm gonna, okay. All right, can everybody hear me now?
Sounds good. Yeah.
Okay, I think we're good now. So as I was saying, we were retained by the town to complete a third-party review, independent review of this particular project for soil remediation along Wharton Brook for removal of nickel and replacement of existing soils with new soil and wetland plantings. I will start off and say that we have been encouraged working with Woodard & Curran through this process as an independent reviewer. They have addressed all of our comments to date. I believe, in my professional opinion, that we have a project, or the town has a project that is approvable as currently proposed. I will say that the project was reviewed by myself as a professional wetland scientist and was also reviewed by Jim Murak, a professional engineer in our office. There's a few items, though, that I want to highlight for the record and for the commission, and I'll go through those relatively quickly. First and foremost, one of the key issues that was raised, that I believe has been raised by the commission as well as the environmental planner for the town is how this project will impact the floodway and or floodplain along Wharton Brook. What we had asked for the applicant to do is provide us the existing conditions topography as well as the proposed topography and demonstrate that there was no net fill to be placed within the floodway and floodplain. They have done that. One of the keys to this project as this project moves forward and actually gets implemented is demonstrating on the back end after construction that the project is in compliance with the proposed plans that are before you. And so one of the recommendations that we had in our letter was that a licensed surveyor would need to perform an as-built survey of the particular restoration area and provide the necessary topo for the commission to review, as well as have a professional engineer run what we call a surface computation along the contour to demonstrate that, in fact, what was constructed out there demonstrates that there's no net fill in the floodway and floodplain. So that was one key component. Second component related to the floodway and floodplain was there was a question raised by the environmental planner that there was some concern that the Quinnipiac River has, during a 100-year storm, has some backwater effect potentially along Wharton Brook at this particular site. And what we did is we looked at the current FEMA flood insurance studies. We looked specifically at the flood profiles to see how and when the Quinnipiac River could potentially impact the site. And what we found is that the Quinnipiac River in and of itself is not the hydraulic control of Wharton Brook in this particular area. What we found, based on our review of the FEMA flood profile, is that there's two culverts, which I think have been talked about, two 60-inch cast iron pipes that are located downstream of the site on another private property that actually control the water surface elevations on this particular site of Wharton Brook. And so it's those culverts that actually control the 100-year water surface elevation, the 50-year water surface elevations in this particular area of Wharton Brook. So I think that was a key component that was asked for us to take a look at. As a wetland scientist, there's always other parameters on a remediation project, specifically when we're dealing with wetlands, that are key and critical. The second, I think the first wetland perspective is taking a look at the type of soils that are going to be used or going to be used as replacement soils for the soils to be excavated. And I know there was some, during the review by the environmental planner, there's been some questions raised about what type of soil should be placed back, whether it's soil texture, as well as the soil chemistry. In terms of soil texture, what we did find out there during our site investigation is that the soil is variable along this particular remediation area. It varies from fine sandy loams, loamy sands, to medium to coarse sands, to mucky soils. So you have a whole gamut of different soils there. The most important thing when we do a restoration project is to really look at what are the macronutrients, what is the total organic content, what is the pH, and what are the other parameters in the soil that actually support plant growth. Texture is important, but really the chemical analysis is the most important component when reestablishing a wetland and importing soil in order to reestablish a wetland. As Woodward and Curran presented earlier, they have provided additional information related to the soils that are currently within the existing wetland, and those are going to help formulate the types of soils that they need to bring in order to support appropriate plant growth in the future. A couple of things that I think is important for the commission to note in terms of what the results showed was that the pH of the existing soils out there are between a range of 5 and 7, which is not atypical of a New England wetland soil. Those are the parameters that they should be shooting for in terms of an import of soil, is anywhere from 5 to 7 as a pH. Total organic content was variable across this particular wetland. Interestingly, well, not interesting, but what we found, or what they found based on the results, is that the higher total organic content was found in the muckier soils, which is indicative of a wetland. And as the soils became more sandy, the total organic content dropped considerably. And so what we would recommend or suggest in terms of parameters based on the results is that the soil that's imported into the site should have a total organic content of anywhere from 4 to 6% for total organic content. In addition to that, phosphorus levels that were found out there ranged from about 5 to 33 parts per million or milligrams per kilogram. We would recommend going forward that any soil that's imported, the range be anywhere from 12 to 20 parts per million for phosphorus. So that's the soils. Let's talk a little bit about the vegetation. We looked at the planting plan that they had developed. The planting plan is a sound plan. They have the right plants for the right locations given the existing habitat conditions. One of the comments that we had based on what we saw or observed out in the field was that there's the day that we were out there actually doing our field investigation with woodland kern, there was some white-tailed deer that were actually moving through the wetland that day. And unfortunately, what happens with a lot of our mitigation sites here in New England is that the deer seem to find the young plants right away. And so one of our recommendations was to, following planting of the new woody plant material, both the shrubs and trees, we recommended that they actually install anti-herbivory cages around those plants or those trees and shrubs to protect them from deer browse. And they have done that. They've added it to the plan set. I think the last component as a wetland scientist that we're always concerned with is the invasive species management on a particular site. Watercourse Kern just went through their process of or goals that they would like to set in terms of invasive species coverage. We're in agreement in terms of allowing for a 10% or less invasive species cover within the mitigation area. I do believe they will have a lower percentage than 10% because again, they are implementing a couple measures here that are going to remove the invasive species from the remediation area relatively quickly with actually physically excavating much of that plant material from the wetland. They've also added some additional contingency measures that we requested, and those have been provided in the invasive species management plan. So we believe now that they have a sound invasive species management plan, they have a sound soil importation plan, sound planting plan, and the last and final comment that I have is that the sediment erosion control plan that's been developed has been developed in accordance with the Connecticut DEP guidelines, and we believe that what has been provided is sufficient to protect Wharton Brook and the other floodplain wetlands that are adjacent to the work area. And with that, I'd be happy to turn it back over to the chairman for additional comments.
Matthew, may I ask one question?
Sure.
Can you repeat the phosphorus, the recommended phosphorus amount?
Yeah, phosphorus, based on the results, anywhere from 12 to 20 milligrams per kilogram is what I believe is shown on your table. So there's a range.
All right, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to ask of the commission, is there any comments or questions from the commissioners? And start with Nick.
No, Jim, I'm all set.
Okay, Ally? I'm sorry.
No, I'm good. I have nothing.
Jennifer?
I have a quick question. It was mentioned that the monitoring time after the project might not last the full 10 years if you meet certain benchmarks ecologically. If the monitoring ends early, will the environmental planner's office be notified that they're all done monitoring?
As part of this, we have to produce regular reports, which the environmental planner will be copied on. So the environmental planner will be aware of the monitoring activities and how we are comparing, measuring up to those different metrics along the way. So yes, she'll be notified.
Thank you.
Deb?
No, no questions.
Okay. And I don't have any questions at this time. Aaron? Oh, I've
Yes.
got Bob. I'm sorry, Bob.
No questions.
Okay. Don't let me skip you there, Bob. Your picture's
right.
not on board, but I don't want to lose you.
Okay.
Aaron?
Yes.
Don't get it. Go ahead.
Thank you. For Matt, I did see your letter with the backwater to address the backwater situation. Right, the letter, it's dated December 23rd. I got it December 28th with the graph on the back, attached on the back. My question is this, you said that constriction, actually, it's the twin culverts owned by Ulbrich Steel, which is the abutting property owner to the west. You said that controls the flooding.
Mhm.
That acts as the control. But so, okay, but the backwater, the Quinnipiac does push water up Wharton Brook, up till it hits that Ulbrich crossing, is that what you're saying? And then it doesn't push it up any further because those pipes are so tight?
No, so if you
Constricted.
look at the FEMA flood profile, it actually doesn't show backwater effects of the Quinnipiac River. So typically what you would find on a profile is you would find a new line above the 100 and 500 year floodplain line that's shown there. They would say Quinnipiac River backwater, and what it indicates that there is no backwater impact along this section or this profile of Wharton Brook. There is a 4.6 foot difference between the Quinnipiac River and the culverts, those twin culverts that we've been talking about. And so the actual control upstream at this particular project site is those culverts. So there is no backwater effect of the Quinnipiac River at this site.
All right, the only reason I thought there was is people tell me there is. Like the former town engineer told me there was.
And not based on the FEMA publication and the data that we've reviewed. Is there an indication now? Is there anecdotal
Yeah, maybe, yes.
evidence of that there is? But according to the modeling that's been done by FEMA along this section of Wharton Brook, they do not indicate a backwater effect of the Quinnipiac River.
All right, I understand, but even if there was, let's say it is actually the case from anecdotal, it's true. Let's say it actually happens. I think what you might say is it gets stopped at that Ulbrich crossing. The effect would stop there, correct?
Based on what we're seeing in terms of the change of elevation, yes. If there was some type of backwater effect, which again is not indicated in the flood profile, yes, in fact would stop below the site because there's such a difference in elevation of the culverts at that downstream site.
And before I jump to something else, I want to stress, it's very important, which you have said, Matt, in your report, to clean out those culverts because they've been jammed up. As culverts get, it's not unusual to get jammed up with storms and stuff with different branches and tree parts and so on. So it's important for them to be cleaned out. And I understand the applicant, Lucas can speak to this, has made an overture to the owner, Ulbrich Steel, starting the conversation.
We will be doing that. We have committed to make that overture. The applicant wanted to wait until the permit was approved before making that overture.
Okay, and let's say they're amenable to it. Would Pfizer pay for that cleaning?
Yes. Yes, when we did the site walk, we observed it, and I don't anticipate that it's a major undertaking.
Hey, let's move along, Aaron. Come on.
Okay, I guess I'd want Lucas and or Matt, for me and probably for other folks too, to just sit in simple language as you can, characterize how the application has been improved from August to today in terms of controlling possible erosion during the remediation process when things are dug up. If we have a flood along the Wharton Brook, how has that changed? Has anything changed in the water handling proposal down by the brook?
I can
Aaron,
speak.
we've been through this whole thing. I mean, it's been a 6-month process. We've got an established program, established recommendation. Let's move on. To just see from the beginning till now is the important part, not what started back in August. Let's move on.
Okay, well, I was on the phone with Matt today, and I'm not, maybe Matt can tell. Do we need to do, you were suggesting maybe a little bit, something needs to be turned in regarding water handling or not? Are we good with that, or do we need something with that?
My recommendation would be, because the water handling plan, specifically the cofferdam, has not been specifically selected yet, and that's not atypical of a permit application or a plan. Usually the contractor is allowed to formulate what type of cofferdam and water control we'll use on the site. My recommendation would be that prior to that cofferdam being installed, that water control plan be submitted to this commission for review, just to confirm that it's appropriate for the project.
Okay, what does Lucas think of that?
We would be agreeable to that.
Okay, are
Okay.
they agreeable to all the conditions? Are you agreeable to all the conditions that Aaron has recommended?
They're not privy to this. I did it after hours. I did it at 5 o'clock. So they're not privy, they haven't seen this. But what it is, what the chairman's
No,
referring to.
no. Well, you can't, how are we gonna vote on it tonight if they can't, if they haven't seen the conditions of approval?
They
If we
are,
vote-
they're Matt's, essentially Matt's recommendations.
Well, no. You generated a legal document from the town of Wallingford. They have not seen it. Unless they're gonna say, we agree to all the conditions that we don't know what they are, but we agree to it, we're gonna move on, because there's no way this can be approved tonight. Lucas, have you got a comment regarding that?
Is there a way to read the conditions of approval?
This meeting
There's
is not
roughly
to go
16
over
of them.
those things. Those are supposed to be done in the town hall at a time or somewhere else to go through. This is what shouldn't be.
Well, we could do that. We could do it next time, but what we could use the time for this time is the peer reviewer has suggested 4 bonds, okay? But the applicant has come back and had some conversation about the 4 bonds. There's some issues that have arisen today regarding the 4 bonds. So
Well,
maybe
that,
we should
that-
discuss the
that-
4 bonds.
well, I think that again isn't, why is that before the commission and not straightened out before we get here?
The applicant does not have an issue with the amounts of the 4 bonds, nor the 4 bonds themselves. We merely propose some more specific metrics for assessing when those bonds are complete.
Well, then you got some details to get ironed out. And the only thing I can suggest is next month, by the next 30 days, you'll have them ironed out. I don't see
Aaron,
how.
Yep.
Go ahead, Lucas.
excuse me, Aaron, what will be the process for review of the conditions of approval?
Well,
You need to see them first. You need to see what they are. You may be familiar with them, but now that they're in black and white, you're going to have to see them and go through them. And I don't know how many are there, Aaron? There's a page and a half of them.
there's 13 on 3 pages. It covers 3 pages. There are 13 of them.
13, and one of them, I guess, has got
Or 12.
4 or
Yeah.
5 categories to it.
Yeah. And then tonight, I think we added water handling. In the conversation tonight, Matt just suggested to add a water handling.
Do they
comment.
have a copy of this at the moment, Aaron? Do they have a copy of the conditions that you wrote tonight?
No,
Then forget it. Because if you had a copy of it, I'd put you to postpone and you could go over it. And at the end of the meeting, we could come back again. But the fact that you don't have it, we're not going to sit here and go through it line by line. I'm sorry.
well, actually, hold up. I can't do it, but maybe someone sitting here can email them what I emailed you guys at 5 o'clock tonight.
I don't
That's
know why
what-
you didn't email. I would have thought you would have had their email and sent it to them.
I got kind of locked out of the internet. I don't have internet at my office, so I have to go upstairs, and I kind of got locked out at 5 o'clock. So, but but
No.
that's okay. We could do this if you want to continue, we could.
Ally,
Someone email
what
us
do you
that.
say, Ally? Let me talk to Ally. Ally?
I
Are-
can
are you-
email it. I can email it right now. If
Okay,
if you put up in the, let me just organize my windows here. Put up in the chat what your email is, and I'll ship it to you right now.
Thank you.
okay. Do I need to hold up until that is done, or can I move on? All right, Ally, I can move on. We'll put this on hold and move on to the next application. And then we'll bring
Sure.
you guys back in at the end. Fair
Thank
enough?
you. Fair enough.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, okay. We're going on number 2 on the old business. Application A20 9.2, 2 Northrop Industrial Road and 1117 Northrop Road. Aaron, have you got a comment on this, or is their attorney going to speak?
Yeah, the attorney for the project yesterday submitted a letter asking to be tabled.
Okay, is that Attorney Senaviva?
Yes,
Would you like to speak, sir?
Just that's the request, Mr. Chairman. We'll be ready for the next meeting.
Now, okay, all right. Start now, so you're ready for the next meeting.
We're working tonight,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Okay, going on to application A20, 10.2, 1033 North Colony Road, 7-Eleven Inc. Go ahead, 7-Eleven.
Mr. Chairman, Dennis Senaviva representing the owner and applicant. With me tonight is Josh Klein, who's our project engineer, spoke at our December meetings with Stonefield Engineering and Design. Also, Mark Arnold is with us. Mark is the soil scientist working on the project with Goddard Consultants. You may all remember, Mr. Chairman, you and commissioners, that we made the presentation. 2 issues were left to be addressed, although we're happy to take any questions and comments tonight. And Josh is prepared to respond to, I think, the first issue that came up, Mr. Chairman. You noted that there was that the new gasoline with ethanol doesn't separate from water. And so there was some discussion about how to make our plan, our spill plan work. I think we've come back with some ideas. And then Commissioner Kern also talked about his concern about separating or segregating some of the stormwater discharge to the Meeting House Brook. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to turn it over to Josh Klein. He can respond as to what he's been able to do with the help of your environmental planner over the last month. Josh?
Thank you, appreciate it. Aaron, it might make sense. I don't know, Dennis, if you want to put your email in as well. Ally, if you could email us any of Aaron's recommendations for this application, so maybe Dennis can look over them, or the team can look over them while I'm presenting.
if I may say, there's nothing new, Josh.
Got it. Okay.
Nothing new. I do have, I have 3 in my mind, but nothing new. I have 3 I'm going to mention, but nothing new. Because you've done such a great job, Josh.
Oh, we appreciate it. Okay, I'll keep this very quick. I'm just going to share my screen. If the organizer could just give me permission, just so I can walk kind of the board through the main changes very quickly. Perfect, thank you. All right, everyone should be able to see my screen now. So, coming out of the last meeting, we really wanted to address the comments head on. So I kind of think the easiest way to kind of talk through it is maybe in the order of how, kind of water would move downhill. So the first big improvement that we've made is we have introduced a fuel canopy, like a containment perimeter. So a grooving around the fuel canopy itself, which is able to contain smaller spills. The next change we've made is we've replaced the oil water separator with a catch basin with a hood and sump, and within the catch basin we're proposing a passive skimmer. So basically a material or that floats within the hood and sump that absorbs any type of like floatables or any type of hydrocarbons. Again, not designed to capture any ethanol, but there to kind of capture any kind of small passive things that, you know, have any potential of sitting in that hood and sump. And the next change and what we've done based on the main concern is we're proposing a shutoff valve. So we're proposing a gate valve for the pipe that contains the runoff of the fuel area and the underground storage tank. So this basically allows this drainage area to be completely shut off from the brook in the case of you know, any type of spill event, and so that water or any type of fluid can no longer kind of continue through that pipe. So it allows us to kind of shut off this area from the rest of the drainage. The next item we have, which is it's still there, I just wanted to kind of highlight the properties. So kind of the next item that's in this train of events is we are proposing a water quality unit. It's a hydrodynamic separator. And I just wanted to kind of note that the way this separator is built, there's 4 chambers and it has a series of baffles. So this unit itself has a lot of similarities to an oil water separator. So even though we don't have the separate oil water separator, and again, I think the oil water separator, you know, was, you know, the intention of it, you know, what the intention of this water quality unit is to kind of separate solids, collect any floatables, any trash, any hydrocarbons that were to kind of float to make it through. So we still are kind of having that element as part of the plan, even though we've kind of, you know, removed it and relocated it with a skimmer in the inlet. And the next big change, what we've done is kind of at this connection point, so we've done 2 things. We've raised the pipe coming from the fuel area so that the pipe coming from the fuel area is about 1.5 feet, 1.38 feet higher than the pipe coming out of the infiltration basin. So effectively, you know, these no longer are at the same elevation. So what we're doing is we're connecting the fuel area, you know, further downstream than the infiltration basin. But what we've also done is we've made sure that their inverts are separated. So that would prevent any type of backup from going through kind of the trench drain or the area where the fueling takes place. So those were the main changes. Those were the kind of addressing the big comments. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I, again, wanted to keep it kind of short and to the point.
I think that's, again, I think those are the responses, Mr. Chairman. I know that Josh has spent some time, a substantial amount of time communicating with Aaron. And again, Josh, maybe you can just address, I know that you submitted a written response dated December 30th, which is part of the record, to some of Aaron's earlier comments. But I think as Aaron pointed out at the beginning, I believe we're pretty far along, if not there, in terms of, at least from a staff perspective, of addressing the concerns that have been raised.
Okay, let me ask the commission first, but I will, I'm disappointed that you didn't find a separator that would separate the ethanol gasoline from the water, seeing I come across that from time to time. But it's a difficult issue. But commissioners, any comments, any questions? Allie?
I don't have any.
Jennifer?
I don't have any.
Deb?
I don't have any.
Robert?
The question I have was the drainage coming off of the 7-Eleven building itself. Is that tied into the water separator, or has that been changed out to a different location, as you had mentioned earlier?
The building connects directly to an infiltration basin and is runoff is infiltrated.
And it's tied into the runoff from the pumps itself also? Are they tied in together?
Sorry, one more time?
Are they tied in together with the runoff from the pumps?
So we're proposing, technically everything kind of discharges at one point. But again, what we've done is separate both of those areas until that last manhole, that last structure before the discharge point into the brook. And kind of one of the big changes is we've made sure that the invert, or basically where the pipe comes into the manhole for the infiltration basin, is lower than the pipe comes in for the fueling area. to prevent any type of, backup that could possibly go down that.
Okay, so what you're saying then, the water coming off the building cannot back up into where the pumps are being stored, the water for the catch basin, is that correct? There's no way
Correct,
that.
that's
Okay,
the
great.
intention of the design.
Thank you. That's it.
Comments, Nick?
Yeah, I've got a couple, Jim. Do you have a maintenance program with this catch basin with the sump in it that's going to catch the runoff from the pumps?
Yes, we have an operation and maintenance manual.
And who's privileged to this? Everybody that works there, are they going to be trained how to use this system? If there's an accident, if my wife goes in there and she takes the pump with her, I don't know how much gas is going to spill out, but have you calculated what the normal spill is in a gas station when the pump is missing to your catch basin or your sump that's going to contain this?
So I think we're hitting on kind of multiple controls that exist at a gas station. So kind of first question is who monitors, who maintains. So there is a stormwater maintenance and operation agreement that would be in place. There also is a third party. 7-Eleven uses a third party consultant that inspects all the fueling equipment, including valve and including this catch basin on a monthly basis. The site itself is also monitored by a third party company, and they have a 24/7 monitoring of all the alarm systems and systems in place. So these fuel pumps are designed with a fail-safe where if someone were to drive away, there is a breakaway valve, so no fuel would spill. There's also positive shutoffs. So if there were ever any detection of fuel within any of these sumps, the system would shut down, an alarm would be triggered, the third party would be notified, and an environmental consultant would be made aware and kind of dispatched to the site. So all the staff is trained per the state requirements. So they are aware of where the spill kit is. They're aware of, what they're capable of doing. Again, the first thing that would happen in any type of spill situation is there'd be a notification to the third party who would instantly create a case. They would call, typically they're trained to call 911, and there's a shut off, both a shut off in the fuel area as well as a shut off in the store where they could pull the shut off and prevent any kind of further spill from happening.
What about the shut off you incorporated into your catch basin that's going to catch these contaminants? Didn't you say you put a valve in there that would actually break the two systems apart? Is there a shut off in there? What about that? Who's going to take care of that?
There's a gate valve on site, and there would be directions on how to use and how to close that valve for a staff member that was comfortable and capable. And then the environmental contractor, whoever would be responsible, for an incident at the site, they would be trained, or there would be directions. They'd be aware of how to use it.
All right. So, do you have this problem in other gas stations, other 7-Eleven gas stations, or is this the first one you've had to design to do this?
We've worked with both 7-Eleven's national operating team as well as their operating team in New England. This is something that they have not been asked to do across the country in any of their stations.
So this is the first.
However, they're kind of looking to work with the town and come up with a solution.
So you want me to bank and approve of this tonight on 7-Eleven is going to train whoever they've hired to run their station, that he's going to run out and turn this valve off once there's a spill. If the guy that drops the load forgets there's fuel in the hose, he pulls the hose off and there's gas all over the ground, we're going to depend on the attendant in the gas station to run out there and shut this valve off, so the contaminants that go into your catch basin sump aren't going to go down into the brook. Is this what you're saying?
No, that's not what I'm saying. So I kind of want to back up because I do think we're kind of skipping some steps. So there are a lot of safety and precautions that are in place. So if there were to be a spill event, which is very unlikely with all of the safety and all of the backups that this system has, we have a containment perimeter that surrounds the canopy that would kind of catch some of that. And so what we also have is this gate valve that can be closed. But at the end of the day, these systems are designed and monitored. And, we're not, 7-Eleven, the system that's in place and the procedures they have in place, I mean, these aren't the state minimums. This is, they're operating at the highest level. They have a third-party consultant that is monitoring the fueling 24/7. The staff is trained on how to operate during a spill event. They have a third-party inspector that comes in monthly to check all of these systems: alarms, electronics, sumps, underground fuel tanks, lines. These are double wall tanks. The fuel lines themselves are double wall. There are sumps in the dispensers. There are sumps in the tanks themselves. And these dispensers are actually designed in a catastrophic event. There are emergency positive shutoffs for all of this system. So with putting us the containment that we're providing, putting aside the separated stormwater design, putting aside the oil skimmer, the hydrodynamic separator, kind of all these other things that we've added, there are all these systems that are currently in place to prevent something like this from happening.
So you've talked about third party and you're banking on everything with the attendant on a spill. And you don't really have, very often you have a spill, but if you had a spill, you're banking on this whole system to work with the attendant. Is that what you're saying? I believe that's what I just heard.
No, we're not banking on a system to work into attendant. I mean, there are fail safes that are in place that are designed and implemented to work. So we're not banking on one person. Like I said, and I'm happy to kind of go through. I have a summary of these different systems that they have in place if you'd like.
No, you said your spill. I'm all set.
You're all set, Nick?
Yes, Jim, thank you.
Okay. Okay, Aaron, you just got 2 or 3 issues?
Yes, just two questions before we get to the conditions of approval. Okay, one question, Josh, you were going to look at give us an estimate how long those 2 areas on the slope. You're going into the slope for 2 purposes, one for the sewer connection and the other for the stormwater down to the river. Okay, how long will those trenches down a 50% slope be opened up, roughly, like 2 weeks, a week?
Ultimately, it depends on the final means and methods and the type of shoring used. But again, I think an estimate would be about a week for each installation.
All right, and my interest is, 1 week is fewer storms than 2 weeks. Right, so when the storms come, that's when you get trouble. Okay, the other question was about, I had asked you in my lengthy comments about your stormwater maintenance management plan. You call it operations and management plan, or site operations management plan. You said that it was addressed last time, but maybe I don't have, you said it was in the engineering report. The one I have here is revised November 13th. Is that your last revision of the engineering report? Or am I missing the next one?
I believe that's the latest.
Because, okay, then I'll make a condition of approval that you do 2 things. Update it, because it still has the surface stormwater basin and the oil grid separator. So update it to have the subsurface infiltrator unit and all these great gas prevention measures you've just put in. So if you could update that with the skimmer, that oil skimmer, it's not in there, how often that gets changed and that kind of stuff, right? And also update it, but you don't have to give me the whole book again. We like it freestanding. So when you update it, which will be a condition of approval, if you could do it freestanding, and then I could put it in the file with a responsible party. Who do I call? Or 5 years from now, who do we call when we want to talk about what's going on out there with the maintenance?
It's no problem. That could be a condition of approval.
Yes. So Mr. Chairman, I'm ready to talk about conditions. If there are any other questions.
Well, Aaron, bond, do they know what the bond's gonna be?
No, we haven't discussed bond.
Well, are you ready to, Commission, I think is getting ready to vote on this.
Yes, yes. So my conditions of approval would be, I should back up and say, everything came in the last 2 weeks. All our applications all decided to give me big Christmas and New Year's presents. So I'm a little bit behind here. So the bond, I'm suggesting a $20,000 bond. The other condition, there's only 3 conditions of approval. The bond, 20,000, I'm suggesting that could be discussed. 2, the erosion control, erosion controls in place, and I get to inspect it before any other further work on the site. And the third one is the one I just went over with Josh, to submit a freestanding stormwater management maintenance plan document that shows the latest, greatest revisions to the plans. Those are the 3 conditions of.
Okay, commissioners, any other questions, you commissioners?
Jim,
Nick?
I don't hear anything different from tonight's meeting than last meeting. I'm just not comfortable relying on the attendant to do everything that needs to be done if there's an emergency, a freak emergency. Everything we're talking about is after the fact. Aaron talks about maintenance for stormwater. That's after the fact. You're still banking on what we talked about at the last meeting is some attendant's going to run out there, and I don't want to hear about the third party because he's not going to be sitting at 7-Eleven's parking lot waiting for somebody to wipe out a pump, or the delivery gas man lets the hose loose and he pours gas over the ground. Now, I was fortunate enough to work for a professional oil delivery and gas delivery service company, and these things happen. I maybe 5 in the last 10 years I've been to clean up the spill, but so you can't tell me it's not going to happen. It's a freak accident. But just depending on the attendant here with the meeting house brook down below, I don't know. I'm just not comfortable with. I don't think I'm not trying to throw a shot at you, Josh, but I don't think you've done anything.
No, I appreciate it. What I want to add, I just spoke to the client. I wanted to clarify. They will be introducing an automatic shutoff valve, and the shutoff valve will be linked to the positive shutoff that's linked to the fuel system itself. So if a spill were detected, if the systems were to shut off, it would automatically close that valve. It would not be the responsibility of the intendant to close the valve. And additionally, there would be that button that's at the counter or that pull down emergency shutoff that's located at the fueling area. When that button is pushed or when that fuel line is pulled, it would automatically close that shutoff. So I think that addresses your main concern. And I confirmed with the applicant that it would be kind of an automatic shutoff. So it's not up to an attendant, to manually close anything. It would be automatically when that any type of these emergencies we're talking about, if when you have the shear valve is pulled when someone drives away, or if, God forbid, someone were to hit a dispenser and it would trigger kind of the shutoff alarm system, it would automatically close that valve.
All right, so this would be part of your plan that you're submitting to us, that this automatic shutoff would be incorporated into the system?
Correct. It would be an automatic shutoff valve.
So I guess that'd
Alright,
be another condition of approval. That one.
All right. Okay, Aaron,
Correct.
come on, Nick's talking. Don't enter in. All right,
I'm
Nick.
sorry.
I'm all set, Jim. If they're going to put the automatic shutoff valve in, I'm comfortable with that. I just didn't want to depend on a human being that, he's going to panic when he sees gas spraying all over or there's a spill. Yeah, I'd rather have when they hit the button, everything goes dead, and then they can go from there. So we're not going to be feeding Meeting House Brook with a 93 high test. That's all.
I'm glad we came along this route because that'll be a fantastic system with the automatic shutoff valve. Because it isn't only just a gallon broken off at the pump. As you testified, a tanker for some reason could drop more than a gallon, and that valve will do a good job. Automatic valve will do a good job. I think it'd be interesting to see. Okay, Aaron, you got anything else? Yes, this will be an additional condition of approval.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you want me to repeat
Okay.
the conditions?
No, not at the moment. All right, at this time, I'll entertain a motion regarding the significant activity of this application.
Hi, this is Deborah Phillips. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that the application A 20-10.2, 1033 North Colony Road, Meeting House Brook, 7-Eleven Incorporated, be deemed not a significant activity.
Is there a second?
Robert Simon seconds the motion.
Motion made and second. Any other discussion? A call for a vote. Nick,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes.
Ally?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, now, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve or deny this application. Deb, you usually make the motion. Would you like to hear the conditions that Aaron is suggesting again?
Yes.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Okay, I do have a question, Mr. Chairman, for the bond. This is an erosion control bond, correct? We're mostly concerned about erosion control and the slopes and so on. So it's an erosion control bond?
Why can't it be a total bond? Why can't you include this valve, this automatic valve in it? Can you include this automatic valve?
He agreed to the automatic valve. I mean, that's not a
Well,
question.
She's just
So that
talking about the
doesn't-
bond, not the conditions of approval.
Oh, yeah, right. Just, it's, okay, you can just say it's a bond. Bond for, so the conditions of approval, here we go, there's 4. A bond for $20,000. Erosion control measures are in place. Initially, environmental planner inspects them before any further work on site happens. 3 is to submit a revised stormwater management maintenance plan with a responsible party and their contact number, with all the recent improvements to the site plan reflected in the maintenance plan, item by item. And number 4 is the automatic shutoff valve to be added to the plan,
All right, Deb, are you okay, Deb, with that?
I think so.
Okay. All right, this time I'll entertain a motion to approve or deny this application.
This is Deborah Phillips. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that application A 20-10.2, 1033 North Colony Road, Meeting House Brook, 7-Eleven Incorporated, be approved with these 4 conditions of approval. Number 1, a $20,000 bond. Number 2, erosion controls in place with inspection before work is performed. Number 3, to submit a freestanding stormwater management document with the changes discussed tonight and all the updates, with the responsible party and their phone number included. And number 4, the automatic shutoff valve is in the plan also.
Motion made. Is there a second?
Robert Simon seconds the motion.
Mr.
Motion
Chairman,
made and second. Any other discussion?
Can
Whatever.
I just add environmental planner to for the erosion controls, that the environmental planner inspects it. I'm sure their site manager will inspect it, but the environmental planner has to inspect it as well before they go forward.
That was in the original discussion. Okay, motion made. It's been seconded. Any other discussion? Call for a vote. Nick,
Yes.
Deborah,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes.
Ally,
Yes.
Jim? Yes. Okay,
Thank you.
we'll go on to the next application. All right, application A 2011.1, Northford Road Bridge, Muddy River, Town of Wallingford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Allison Kapuscinski, Town Engineer. I'm here tonight seeking approval from the Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Commission.
Allison, can we get a picture?
Yeah. Unfortunately, my connection is really poor. I'm
Okay.
afraid that if I start the video, it's happened for town council meetings before, so I like to keep the video off, and then typically my audio is okay.
Okay.
Let me know at
All right.
any point. I could call in as well. So yeah, I'm here tonight seeking approval for the replacement of the Northford Road Bridge over the Muddy River. The engineering department has retained WMC engineers to complete the design and permitting for this project. Tonight we have Don Wangle, project manager with WMC engineers, who will be giving a brief presentation summarizing the submitted materials and to answer any questions you may have. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to John. Mr. Chairman, if you could make, he's logged on as Keegan Elder, the presenter, he could present from there. Thank you.
The only problem I'm going to request of them, I know they're in close proximity to each other and they have masks on, which are a great thing, except they muffle the sound, and coming over to the computer, they have to be extremely careful or extremely cognizant of it, because maybe it's probably just me being old age, but it's difficult to understand the words. So if they focus on that, that'll be better.
Keegan is actually here for the next application on the agenda, so he'll probably be able to take a step away so John could present without a mask.
That would be much better. I would appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem. Good evening, everybody. My name is, as Allison mentioned, my name is John Wayne. I'm here from WMC Engineers representing the town for the Inland Wetland Watercourse meeting, January 6th, 2021, for the replacement of Northford Road Bridge over the Muddy River in Wallingford, Connecticut. Condout bridge number 04832. So for some reasons, I have a project location map. So the project location is just southeast of the central part of town. I have blow-up aerial of the, I'm just waiting a second for this to change. Okay, this is an aerial view blow-up of the project site. The project site is in the lower portion of the stream. You can see the Kenzie Reservoir just upstream. So this is an aerial view. Excuse me, there's a little lag time between presentation and the screen here. So I have a couple pictures. This is from the bridge looking north. It's from the bridge looking south. This here is the upstream elevation looking downstream at the bridge.
Did we freeze?
Yeah, just a little lag time. So this is looking upstream from the upstream portion of the bridge. This is the downstream bridge elevation looking upstream. This is looking downstream from the bridge itself. So a couple of these pictures just to get you familiar with the site. So the existing bridge 04832, some reasons for the project. The Connecticut DOT inspects this bridge every 2 years. January of 2019, the bridge was inspected. The bridge was built in 1938, so it's approaching 100 years old. The superstructure was rated in serious condition. The substructure was rated in satisfactory condition. And the overall structural evaluation required high priority of corrective action. Now, the bridge is currently safe, but warrants replacement, and that's why we are here tonight. Just a couple pictures of the bridge itself, just to show you the condition. This is the underside of the bridge.
Keenan, we really want to get into the wetlands aspect of this, not the structure of the bridge, please.
Okay. I'm just trying to show a couple of the reasons why. So here we are, environmental considerations. We've consulted with DEP. We received the coordination in 2020 of this year. They've determined that it will not significantly impact any fisheries and or habitat. Our unconfined in-stream activities will be limited to the time period of June 1st through September 30th. Our fisheries enhancements were included in our design, including rounded toe boulders at the toe slope and a rock vein installation. There are no known contaminated soils within the project. No hazardous materials within the project. Best management practices will be utilized during construction. All disturbed areas will be restored upon completion. Town, DEP, Army Corps permits will all be acquired. The project is within a FEMA flood zone and an adopted regulatory floodway. The area is in an area indicated by the DEP to have special species of special concern. We've coordinated with the NDDB and received coordination of November 29th of 2020. Both our coordination back in 2017 and our 2020 coordination identified 2 species of special species of concern. Part of our contract documents, we will be requiring the contractor to hire a qualified biologist to ensure protection guidelines are adhered to. Work shall occur between April 1st and September 30th when the species are active. No in-stream work shall occur between November 1st and April 1st. Exclusionary practices will be required. Staging areas outside previously paved areas must be reviewed and approved. Construction personnel will be informed of the presence and instructed to relocate individuals. No heavy machinery will be allowed to park with any species habitat, and the contractor shall search the site each day prior to work. The 2020 coordination also identified 1 known plant species of concern. A plant survey will be performed in the spring of 2021 by a qualified botanist. If found within the construction limits, a conservation plan will be developed to address short and long-term management recommendations. Findings will be submitted to the DEP for final determination. All our correspondence and findings will be submitted to the town environmental planner. Our proposed construction is to replace the bridge with a 40-foot clear span pre-stressed deck unit, superstructure supported on integral abutments and cantilevered type wing walls. Our substructure will be founded on micropiles, rock socketed into bedrock. Our structure span meets the 1.2 bankfull width requirement and will remove historic fill in the wetlands and watercourse. We plan on leaving the existing concrete footings for the abutments and wing walls in place and removing only the stems 2 feet below grade, installing toe boulders along the channel and our grading limits, and installing rounded riprap embankment protection. We will be maintaining existing channel grades and channel material. Proposed roadway will consist of 320 feet of roadway reconstruction, a bridge replacement, and new guide rail. This picture shows the overall limits of the project. The yellow represents the new pavement. The green represents fill areas, which will be established with turf. This brownish orange material along the river, that's the area that we are going to be removing. That's our cut areas. This yellow hatch right here, horse trailer parking, which we'll be maintaining. We will be raising the road by approximately 2 feet at the low point. This is to accommodate a 50-year design storm for the bridge. A bridge elevation view, which is not vertically exact. This is what the bridge is proposed to look like. The red represents where the existing abutments are, and the outside orange area with a concrete form liner is our new span. This area in here where the riprap, the rounded riprap is shown, it kind of matches, but this brown area to the right and left of the red is where we're going to be removing all that material behind those existing bridges. We're providing 2 12-foot lanes and 2 2-foot plus shoulders on both sides of the bridge. Our pre-construction approvals. Prior to construction, the contractor will be required to submit a construction sequencing plan, erosion and sedimentation control plan, a water handling plan, flood contingency, dewatering, spill prevention, and remediation plan. All approvals shall be submitted to the engineer and the town for approval prior to the start of construction and shall comply with all local, state, and federal permits. The town will also have a full-time inspector on site during construction activities. Our proposed construction staging on our design plans. Step 1 would be to install ENS controls. Then we'd like to install our temporary cofferdams downstream and install the rock fan. After that's complete, we'd like to install the debris shield and remove our existing superstructure. Then we'd like to start constructing the new abutments and wing walls behind our existing substructure, utilizing the existing substructure as some water handling devices. After those new abutments are installed, we like to install water handling cofferdams in the channel in front of our existing abutments, and remove those existing abutments to 2 feet below grade. After that's done, we will install the toll boulders and the rounded riprap on the newly graded embankments, and then we're going to reinstall that natural stream bed material. So let's just back up a second. When we excavate those walls out, we'll be removing the existing stream bed material, stockpiling it, and then after we're done with the riprap and the rounded riprap and the stone bowl channel boulders, we will be reinstalling that stream bed material into the channel. So after that's done, we'll remove the cofferdams and install the superstructure. Then we will complete all our remaining bridge and roadway work. So this is a little blow up of the plan itself. You can see downstream, we'd like to put this rock vein in early in the season. Then we like to come back and start building our concrete abutments on either side. We are going to maintain water in the center portion of the channel, maintain flow at all times. Our water handling devices will be designed for a 2-year water surface elevation of 172 feet. And we are providing a hydraulic opening here that the contractor must maintain. Our wetland and watercourse impacts. So my impact plan, we are impacting a total of 1,550 square feet of both state wetland and watercourse impacts. Let me just move the go-to meeting. We also have about 9,200 square feet of upland review area impacts. Most of our permanent impacts are going to be directly adjacent to the existing wing walls, where we're going to be cutting this material back to install our new wing wall structures. I believe it resulted in a negative fill of about -5 cubic yards that we're going to be removing out of the wetlands and watercourses in those areas. As I just mentioned, we have 1,550 square feet of impacts, approximately 0.35 acres. We met with Erin after her review of the project, and she requested us to put a plantings plan together. So we will be providing a planting plan, which will incorporate native species, which exists at the site currently, and we'll also be using conservation mixes along the embankment slopes that's disturbed by the construction. Our permits that we are going to be required, we will have our local inland wetland. Right now, Allison's working with the town to see if a local flood management will be required, and we'll be able to submit that if it's required. We also will be going in front of the Army Corps of Engineers and the DEP in an interagency coordination meeting this spring, and they will determine what types of permits they require. Right now, we are anticipating a self-verification and a 401 water quality certification. The project costs about $2.4 million currently, and the project schedules to start in the spring of 2022 and take 8 months to complete. Allison Kavachinski, the town engineer, is the contact for the town. Myself, John Wengel, will be the contact for the WMC consulting engineers. Thank you for allowing me to present, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Let's see. Okay, can you, I think I'd like to have you eliminate your screen with your presentation so I can get our people back again.
Okay.
There we go, thank you. Okay, commissioners, comments, questions? How about Robert, any comments?
I do. You said you're mentioning about stockpiling the soil that you're removing to reinstall. Where do you plan on stockpiling it? Because I know that's a pretty well used area for horses and trailers and what have you.
Yes. Discussing with Erin, we do know that there's some 2 parking lots that we will not be able to use for Tyler Mill. So those will not be used. We're also in that 100-year floodplain, as I mentioned earlier, with the FEMA. So right now we would like to since the road will be closed and to the east of the bridge, there's not many driveways for a few hundred feet. We'd like to utilize that area for construction trailers, staging of equipment, stockpile of material.
Okay, thanks.
So just another thing, we also have to maintain Tyler Mill open for the construction, so there'll be a very, very small amount of space for the contractor to utilize on that western side.
That's all I had.
Very good.
Debbie,
No,
any
no
questions? Jennifer,
I don't have anything.
Ally,
No, I'm good.
Nick?
All set, Jim.
Okay, it's, I don't think we've had a presentation like that before. I found it interesting. I found it informative. I do get a little concerned with 8 months. That isn't how long the road is going to be shut down, is it?
Yes.
8 months the road is going to be shut down. They only shut down I-84 for 4 hours and they changed the 4-lane bridge. I think there's something different going on here.
Yeah,
We
they
would have loved
wanted
to do that,
to
Mr.
for
Chairman,
that.
with the same budget.
Different budgetary.
You all set here, Aaron? I know you've been working with Allison on it.
Yes, okay, so my environmental planners report went out New Year's Eve in your packet. However, things have been continuing since then. So I prepared a streamlined or new and improved conditions of approval that I emailed to everyone around 5 o'clock tonight. The town engineer, Allison, did get it, and I believe she supplied it to the consultant. Is that true, Allison? You all have it?
We reviewed it.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay, so there are 9 conditions, but tonight I heard another one, which I was pleased with, that they're going to add a planting plan. So that's great. So it'd be, number 10 would be submit planting plan with native plants. That's great. And then the other thing was in number 3, I said the applicant will tell at tonight's meeting, he'll confirm the dates that are restricted. And I heard 2, I'll tell you what they are. I heard 2 restricted timeframes, but maybe John could confirm that I'm right. And these are the 2 times that we have to pay attention to for restrictions.
Yes.
One was no in-stream work from November 1st to April 1st. That was one
Correct.
that I heard. The other was unconfined activities have to occur between June 1st and September 30th.
Correct.
Is there any other restriction on time, or those the 2?
2 strict time of year restrictions. But we
I'm sorry?
we are proposing to confine all our work within the ENS controls and the temporary coffer dams. So that restriction for the contractor wanting to go in and install the rock thing without any erosion control measures. And we're not allowing them to do that. We're confining our whole site.
So did I word it right? No in-stream activities between November 1st and April 1st. Is that correct? Right wording?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And the other thing is, if you're doing unconfined activities, let's say, are you doing unconfined activities?
No.
Yes, you aren't.
No, we are confining all our activities.
Okay, so that one doesn't matter. We can cross that one out then, right?
It still needs to be on the contract plan.
Okay.
In the contract, so.
Okay. Well,
So
you
it will
want to-
not be a condition of the commission's approval, but it will still be a condition of our contractor's work to comply with all the DEP permits.
Okay. All right. You all set, Aaron?
Yes, it was to add that.
Allison, you're in agreement with all the conditions of approval that Aaron has selected?
We are, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, then at this time, I'll entertain a motion regarding the significant activity of this application.
Deborah Phillips, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that application 20-11.1 Northford Road Bridge, Muddy River, be deemed not a significant activity.
Is there a second?
Robert Simon seconds the motion.
Motion made and seconded. Any other discussion? I'm going to call for a vote. Nick,
Yes.
Debbie,
Yes,
Robert,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes,
and yes. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve or deny this application.
Deborah Phillips, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that application A 20-11.1 Northford Road Bridge, Muddy River, be approved as submitted with the 10 conditions of approval, 9 of which are in the report of January 6th, and the 10th one is that a planting plan with native plants will be submitted.
Okay, motion made. Is there a second?
Robert Simon seconds the motion.
Okay, motion made and second. Any other discussion? Call for a vote. Nick,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes,
Robert,
Yes.
Jennifer,
yes.
and Jim, yes. Okay, approved. Okay, and then we'll go on to application A 20-12.11.2, A 20-11.2, South Turnpike Road.
I want to thank you.
Agenda long.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That is me again, Allison Kapuscinski, town engineer for the record. We are now joined with Keegan Elder with WMC Engineers. And this is for the rehabilitation of South Turnpike Culvert that carries Mansion Brook. So with that, if Keegan, I'll give him a second to get settled, and I'm sure he has to bring up his presentation himself, but if you could make Mr. Keegan Elder a presenter, that would be great. Thank you.
All right, good evening. Can everyone see my presentation?
And presentation, correct?
Yes. PowerPoint presentation. All right, as Allison mentioned, my name is Keegan Elder from WMC Consulting Engineers. And this presentation is for the rehabilitation of the South Turnpike Road Bridge over Mansion Road Brook. Here's a location map, showing the location of the project right here over South Turnpike, Mansion Brook, runs from west to east. We're just to the west of the Watercourse Parkway and the Quinnipiac River. Just some general information about the structure before I get into the details of the wetland impacts. This structure is a twin 4x3 concrete culvert. It's in poor condition and in need of repair. It's funded under what's called a state local bridge program. So there is some review by the department and the town. That's sort of the general sort of information about the project. The both culverts are about 39 feet long and they run under the roadway. Here's a picture looking north over the bridge. The bridge is right here in the distance, running under here. You can't see anything. You drive by it, didn't notice it. Looking south, again, the structure is located right here. Here's an upstream view of the structure standing in the channel, and the bottom right, downstream elevation of the structure. Some of the deteriorations on the head walls are the things that we're going to fix, and on the interior of the culverts, just falling and deteriorations in these culverts that warrant rehabilitation. FEMA flood elevations, not much happening here. We're in the flood zone. This is an existing conditions map. In green, you have the FEMA floodway. Blue would be our wetlands, federal and state, and red dash would be the watercourse upstream, and we go downstream here. So the proposed construction activities, we intend to line these culverts with concrete, centrifugally line these culverts, and patch the wing walls. So essentially what we're going to do is do handling water and do half at a time. Divert water from one culvert while we can do work in the dry in the other culvert, and flip it once we're done with the first. The lining or the concrete lining that we're doing is a centrifugal liner that we've done on projects for the state under things like Route 2 and Route 9, where we tend to disturb traffic above, but we want to work underneath. So they pull this sort of Gatling gun, they call it, through. And as they slowly pull that machine through, it spins and sprays fiber reinforced concrete on the existing system. This culvert is going to have a 1-inch thick fiber reinforced liner on the inside for both these structures when we're done. The contractor will get in there with hand tools and smooth things off, and then also upstream and downstream work on the wing walls and head walls. In addition to that work in the watercourse and wetlands, downstream there's a significant drop off, as you saw in one of the earlier views or the earlier pictures. We're going to install a riprap splash pad or riprap boulder cluster just at the outlet. This will help us or alleviate the undermining problems that are currently occurring there. With the velocity of the water dropping, one of the things the state recommended we do is protect that outfall with riprap or boulders top dressed with natural screen bed material. In addition to that, they requested that we included a rock vein downstream, just downstream of the culvert. This will help slow velocities as well. We expanded the pool just at the outlet. I'll show you some drawings of that, and that sort of helped us take care of the habitat pool that fisheries was concerned about just downstream of the structure. So as far as the wetland and watercourse impacts are concerned, the watercourse impacts, we have about 725 square feet for temporary, about 1,350 for permanent. Overall, just under 3,000 for watercourse impacts. And then wetland impacts were 630 for temporary, 630 for permanent, and 975 for temporary, total of 1,600. On this view, and the legend, I don't know how clearly you can see it, but the green represents the watercourse impacts. These are the culverts here right next to each other that we're going to be lining with that centrifugal reinforced concrete. And then as you get to the outlet, as I mentioned, we're going to install the boulder cluster right here. Let's skip the slide. Let's go back. Yep. So the riprap downstream just at the outlet to help with velocities. This grading that you see here opens up this downstream pool, provides additional habitat, and this is the rock vein just downstream of that grading. This helps slow velocities as water comes through here. So our watercourse impacts in green. We have wetland impacts in blue. Those are temporary wetland impacts. Our permanent wetland impacts are in the green hatch. There's a reddish hatch. You can't really see them that clearly in this view. But then you have upland review impacts. Those are the red shades you see up here along this temporary access road. So let me get into a little bit of the details. In order for the contractor to get down into the channel to do this work, he would have to install temporary access roads downstream and upstream to perform the lining work inside, install temporary cofferdams, and do the grading. So these access roads will be cleared They'll have stone. Those roads, once they're done with construction, the stone will be removed and they'll be turfed and seeded. Areas where the access road impacts the wetlands, we'll put a wetland mix in there. Other areas will do the standard turf establishment in accordance with DOT guidelines, and we'll reseed that area and restore it to its original state. The entire site will have temporary erosion control measures around. As I mentioned, to do the work, we'll have temporary cofferdams. Those are those dark lines that go down the middle of the channel, as you can see here, when we divert flow from one culvert to the other. Stockpile area is located right here over my cursor. Just to the south of that, pumping and settling basins for making sure he does or can keep his work area dry and treating that water before it gets pumped back into the watercourse. The only work that we're going to be doing up on the roadway surface is reconstructing the existing guide rail that's there. It's in pretty bad shape. We can get that included in this project under the state program. And I think, according to Allison and some of the discussions we had with the town, it's one of the areas that's slated to get improvement, but not an impact to the wetlands, but an impact to the upland review area. And that is also quantified in our tables. Here's a typical section showing the existing culvert here, flow running from the left to the right, traffic right and above. We have overburden or fill over the culvert, guide rails off to the side. So as I mentioned, we're going to be putting a liner in on the inside, a centrifugally cast liner. We'll bevel the edges of the culvert. The reason we bevel the edges is to help with velocities and hydraulics. When we add the liner, we're reducing the hydraulic opening by that 1 inch. In order to offset that, we bevel the inlet, and that allows or funnels water through faster, and that helps with the hydraulics. Just downstream, you can see the riprap area that I talked about to protect the culvert from being undermined and also stop the erosion happening right now at the outlet. Floodway impacts. So because we're lining, we're adding concrete that 1 inch on the inside of both. So the state considers that as filling the floodway. And in addition to that, we're adding the riprap just downstream. That's also considered fill. So to offset that and to address fisheries concerns of having a downstream pool, we increased the area of the pool and graded the channel back in that area. So we offset our area so that we have a net cut at this site to avoid any other further concerns about filling in the floodway. So that's one of the main reasons for having the downstream pool configured the way it is, in addition to the fisheries requests. Here's the stage construction plan. I basically talked about most of this already in the construction activities, but essentially doing half the work at a time. This dark line shows the cofferdam upstream, cofferdams downstream, temporary cofferdams, and he cordons off this area, keeps the flow to the easterly cells. And what he does is work in the dry over here, the grading and so forth in the channel, putting up that pool. Once that's done, the other view to the right, stage 2, flip-flops, as I mentioned before. We have our temporary cofferdams in place for him to do that. Those cofferdams are removed upon completion of the work. Some hydraulics and hydrology. We're designing for the 100-year storm. We're showing no increases to the water surface elevation for construction. Beveling those edges at the inlet does help from a hydraulic standpoint. Some more information, just to give you an overview of the project. The drainage area here is less than a square mile. Design storm frequency, I mentioned. We don't meet the foot of free fall, but we don't make any existing conditions worse by repairing the existing structure. And flow for design for temporary, we gave the contractor the daily flow and spring flow, 3 CFS, 2 CFS. So he can design his temporary culvert dams to capture that within the watercourse and wetlands for this project. NDDB, we reached out to the state. Initially, we saw the map and the map showed species of concern. So because of that, we followed up with them. They in turn sent us a letter saying that there are no species of concern based on latest research. That letter was included in the application. So we're in the clear as far as that's concerned. Environmental considerations. As I mentioned, best management practices will be used around the site in accordance with the Department of Erosion Control and Sedimentation Control 2002 guidelines. Silt fence will be installed around all construction activities, temporary culvert dams, any unconfined in-stream activity based on the fisheries recommendation will be restricted to period inclusive of June 1st and September 30th. And as I mentioned, any disturbed areas during construction will be restored upon completion of construction by turf establishment for non-wetland areas and wetland seed mix for areas that were within the wetlands. Permits that we anticipate for the federal level, the Army called a pre-construction notification or PCN. The Deep 401 water quality, I believe they just changed the name of that one, but that's the deep permit along with the federal permit, and then the town local inland wetland permit. Just to wrap things up, overall project cost is approximately $525,000. As I mentioned, it's a state local bridge program, so the town has a 50% cost for this. Anticipated construction from June to September, approximately 4 months for the rehabilitation of this structure. And with that, I have contact information for the people involved. As I mentioned, myself, Keegan Elder, Allison, worked well with us. Aaron, we met before and worked on with this project. Rob was involved at the beginning. Allison sort of took over the reins from him on the project, but his contact information. And with that, I'll open the floor to any questions, comments, or concerns.
Okay, let's see. I'd like to get you got to drop your presentation, I think. How's that done? So I can get a full screen again?
Stop sharing.
Stop sharing. That did it. Very good. Okay, commissioners, comments, Ally?
I don't have any questions.
Jennifer?
I don't have anything.
Deborah?
No, no questions.
Robert?
No questions.
Nick?
Jim, isn't this the culvert that was undersized because of upland development, that the water kind of backs up on the west side of it and barrels through there at a high rate of speed? It need to be if it was going to be replaced, didn't it need to be a larger culvert? Is this just a Band-Aid, or is this, I believe this is the culvert that doesn't the water back up alongside of Mansion Road with this culvert when we get heavy rains?
So currently, I don't know what the future or what the previous plans were. Our scope of work was to do the rehabilitation of it. But to answer your other question about water backing up, it does overtop all the 100-year design storm. And what we were charged with doing, seeing that we're not replacing it, not closing the road, was to not make the condition any worse, which is what we did by beveling the inlet and outlet and reducing that liner to only 1 inch thick on the inside of the existing structure.
Okay.
Okay, that's interesting. I haven't spent that much time on that side of town, but I know at different times the velocity is high. I think this is an interesting process. I hadn't heard of it before. It seems to be very little impact to the wetlands, gets a bridge, some more life to it. and took care of the pool down below.
Yeah.
Aaron, comments, Aaron?
The environmental planners report went out in your New Year's Eve packet. However, we worked together, the applicant, Allison, and I worked together. And so the streamlined version of the conditions of approval went out tonight at 5 o'clock in your email. I just have one question for the consultant, and that is, do you have any unconfined in-stream activities proposed at this time?
No, we do not.
All right, then we don't have to worry about restrictions on, so number 2, we can take out. The condition number 2, we don't have to worry about, so let's cross number 2 out. Right, Allison, is that good? Are you on board here?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, we're crossing
Thank you.
number 2 out. So now we just have the 2 conditions.
Good. So at this time, I'll entertain the motion regarding significant activity of this application.
Deborah Phillips, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that application A20-11.2 South Turnpike Road Bridge, Mansion Road Brook be considered not a significant activity.
Is there a second?
Robert Simon seconds the motion.
Motion made and second. Any discussion? Not a call for a vote. Ally?
Yes.
Robert?
Yes.
Deborah?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Yes. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve or deny this application.
Deborah Phillips, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that application A20-11.2 South Turnpike Road Bridge, Mansion Road Brook be approved as submitted with 2 conditions of approval, number 1 and number 3, that are in the report of January 6, 2021.
Motion made, second.
Robert Simon seconds the motion.
Motion made and seconded. Any other discussion? Call for a vote. Ally?
Yes.
Robert?
Yes.
Deborah?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We'll
Thank
go
you,
on
Mr.
to the
Chairman.
next. I'm sorry? Oh, thank you. Very good. Go on to the next application, A20-12.1, 932 Northrop Road, Proton International. Yes, sir. Mr. Lachlan? No sound. No sound, Jimmy. Jimmy, there's no sound.
Thank you. Sorry. I'm Jim Lachlan. My law office is on North Main Street, here on behalf of Proton International. This project introduces state-of-the-art technology in cancer research and treatment that will be relocated right here in Wallingford. Instead of traditional radiation therapy, this treatment will use heavier particulate matter, protons, as opposed to photons. This will result in less collateral damage to area tissues and organs in the area being surgically manipulated, leading to better lifestyle after the treatment. Partners in the project, together with Proton International, are Yale New Haven Health and Hartford Health. Yale New Haven Hospital and Hartford Hospital, state-of-the-art technology right here in Wallingford on the corner of Interstate 91 and Route 68, right behind the Marriott. All questions you may have can be answered by Peter Carbone with Proton International, who's here tonight, but it's been long tonight so far, and you have a heavy docket. So the technology and the facts and environmental information that you'll be reviewing will be presented by Andrew White of Ty and Bond, which is the engineering company with local offices in Shelton and in Middletown, together with Jim Olson in LEP, Nick Granada in LEP, and Raina Voloski, all of whom are with Ty and Bond. Your jurisdiction is triggered not by wetlands or upland review areas, but instead by the amount of impervious surface exceeding 20,000 square feet. My understanding is there is some 70 or 80,000 square feet. So you know we went for a variance on the parking that resulted in a reduction of impervious surface by 20,000 feet. We've responded to comments from Erin in her letter dated December 22, as well as to her New Year's Eve report that's been referenced, December 31, 2020. Our responses are available online, as well as will be presented and reviewed tonight by Andrew. Questions can be answered again by Peter Carbone, Andrew, or anybody from Ty and Bond. Many of the answers have been provided by Erin in her own report. She was outstanding in meeting with us. We met on 2 or 3 different occasions, plus side conversations between her and me. It's really made for smooth sailing. We have no objection to the conditions that she presents at the end of her report. And I believe Andrew White is ready to proceed with his comments.
Thank you, Jim. Good evening, commissioners. My name is Andrew White. I am a civil engineer with Ty and Bond, as Jim has introduced me. If I could have control to do a quick presentation of the project.
I'll make you a presentator as long as it's a wetlands presentation.
It will be a wetlands presentation. Yes, sir.
I think you have control now.
I do. So as Mr. Loughlin, Attorney Loughlin said, our site is west of Interstate 91, north of Route 68 on Northrop Road. The site itself, the orientation here, north has gone to the right, but it's 11.79 acres. There is a ridge line that runs north to south. At 90% of the site drains to a 20-foot culvert that is at the southern property line, highlighted here in blue. There is a man-made drainage swale that runs north to south, highlighted in this light blue color, that takes water from Northrop Road via catch basins on Northrop Road. The site plan itself, we have proposed a 27,812 square foot building, the footprint of which is 18,000 square feet. As mentioned earlier, the square footage of impervious surface on the site is 74,663 square feet. Access comes off of Northrop Road, and the development itself is situated at the southern end of the site. Our impact on the site is approximately 4.8 acres. A majority of that is taken up by the building and the parking and grading surrounding the site. Stormwater management is being accommodated on site per the town of Wallingford standards and the state stormwater quality standards. We are in the aquifer or the watershed protection district. So we've been closely coordinating with the town of Wallingford to provide sand filters and additional treatment for our stormwater flows. So as I mentioned before, 90% of the site is traveling down to the 24-inch culvert at the southern end of the site. The man-made drainage swale we are proposing to intercept with our development and relocate it in a culvert underneath our site driveway and daylight it for about the last 100 feet. And our stormwater flows from parking surfaces will go through sand filters to be cleaned per Wallingford standards. The roof will be discharged into below grade infiltration, as well as the parking lot flows. So we have a reduction in peak flow and in volumetric flow on the site. For erosion controls for the site, we have proposed a two-phase implementation of the soil erosion controls for the site, particularly due to the active drainage swale that is active during rainstorms. We are proposing to cut in a construction entrance off of Northrop Road, have a timber mat crossing of the drainage swale. We will be stripping and stockpiling existing soils on site. And we are providing 2 sediment basins to control sediment. We also are proposing hay bale check dams throughout the drainage swale and additional protection by the culvert that's to the south that goes off our property. The second phase of our S&E plan is once more of the development is in place, and this shows one of the sediment traps would be decommissioned by the time the building foundation is getting installed, and we would maintain the second sand trap during the completion of construction. And the perimeter erosion controls will be adjusted as the development continues. This is the high-level presentation. We meet the Wallingford town standards for stormwater compliance, the 2004 state standards for stormwater, and the 2002 stormwater or soil erosion and sediment control. And I'm more than happy to take any questions on the project now. And let me stop sharing my screen.
I'm sorry, I was off. Robert, questions?
No questions.
Okay, Jennifer,
I don't have any questions.
Ally,
No question.
Deborah,
No questions.
Nick?
I just have one form. Is that the northern side of the property all ledge? Have you done any soil testing out there to see what type of soils you're going to be dealing with?
For the northern side of the site, we've done soil sampling for the entirety of the site. The northern side of the site, we are not developing on, so it will remain forested. Ledge is common throughout the site. It's typically 6 to 8 feet deep. There are some pockets where it goes very deep, and we didn't find any in our test pits, but for the most part, ledge was 6 to 8 feet deep.
All right, so you won't be doing any blasting out there?
There may be a little bit of a hammering of rock for the lowest portion of our foundation, but that's currently being evaluated. What we found in our investigation is that there's a layer of weathered rock sitting on top of sound bedrock. So we're anticipating some scraping of the weathered rock off of the solid bedrock.
All right, so all your storm drainage piping and anything that's going to be underground, you won't have any problem with installing it?
No, we will not have any problems with that.
Okay, thank you. I'm all set, Jim.
Thank you, Nick. Weathered rock, is that a red rock that you're dealing with there or a blue rock?
That I'm not sure. I can find the answer and respond. The weathered is fractured, partially fractured already. So at some portions, an excavator bucket can almost pull some of the rock away.
I totally agree with you. The top layer, absolutely. I was just curious if it was blue or red, but that's all right. Okay, Aaron?
I did have one question for Andrew. My environmental planners report went out in your packet, everybody, on just the New Year's Eve packet. And there was one comment in there about the reforested area up on the hill and my concern for invasive species control, invasive plant species, because there didn't seem to be anything about that, but I understand that's changed. Can you affirm that now that you now have a 3-year program or something? Is that right, Andrew?
That is correct. So we have included on our plan, one comment was having shrubs for the understory, so it'd be trees and shrubs. And the other is we added a note to our landscaping plan that there would be a 3-year maintenance and removal of invasive species to be maintained by Proton International.
To give those new plants a fighting chance. Okay, so I propose in here, I suggest 5 conditions of approval. You've seen these, Andrew? Yes? I gave them to Attorney Laughlin, so yes?
Yes.
Okay, good. I didn't put a figure on the bond, Mr. Chairman. I thought maybe you would want to weigh in on that.
Well, I think the bond, if they're setting some vegetation replantings, I think that's has a value. The work as far as the swale, I don't think is a high dollar item. I think somewhere between 5 and 10 would probably be more than adequate. Nick, what do you think? You're pretty accurate at this stuff.
Yeah, I don't think any more than 10,000 would cover the whole site.
Okay, so let's put it at 10,000.
All right, that was the first condition of approval, was the bonds to be set in amount of 10,000. The second refers to the town engineer's comments, Allison Kapuscinski's comments of December 30th. Are you okay with that, Andrew? Have you seen those?
I have, in fact, we've responded too late for this meeting, but we have responded to those comments, and she'll be receiving those within the next day or two. So that's
Okay, so it would be to address those comments. And then the water division's comments that we got yesterday. We got them yesterday. You're familiar with them? You got copies of them?
Yes, we do.
You're okay. Is there anything in there that you have an issue with?
That's up to the water and sewer department, Aaron. Okay, going on to item 4.
I'm sorry, they requested that they be approved as conditions of approval for this approval. So, that's why I was bringing it up. Of course, they'll get another shot at it at planning and zoning.
Well, I find that well, Andrew, how do you feel about that? You have any problem with water and sewers comments?
We do not have any problems with water and sewers. The comments that they had or typically focused more towards our construction documents anyhow. So a lot of those had to deal with much more detail in some of our diversion structures.
Going on, item 4, erosion control. Any problem?
That's our standard erosion control condition that I have to inspect it before they go further.
You had no trouble with that.
Number 5. Okay, this is more interesting here. During the construction phase, the person responsible for the erosion control plan on the work site should conduct daily monitoring of the lower drainage swale area and the area located immediately in front of the inlet to the Marriott's 24-inch RCP for possible erosion control issues or sedimented flows that may leave the site. Monitoring should also be conducted before and after storm events, restoration of existing erosion control measures, or an installation of additional measures as may be necessary to be immediately implemented. This is critical. This is critical. At that point, you don't want dirty water leaving the site because it's somebody else's property. So it's very important. That's very important. So that's why I underscored it in the condition of approval, even though they're aware of it.
And you have no problem with that, Andrew?
We do not have a problem with that. We've included language of that in our stormwater inspection manual.
Okay. All right, so then we're ready to move on. At this time, I'll entertain a motion regarding the significant activity of this application.
Deborah Phillips, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that application A20-12.1 932 Northrop Road, Proton International Incorporated, be deemed not a significant activity.
Your second?
Robert Simon seconds the motion.
Motion made and seconded. A call for a vote. Nick,
Yes.
Deborah,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Jim, yes. Okay, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve or deny this application.
Deborah Phillips, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that application A 20-12.1, 932 Northrop Road, Proton International Incorporated, at the application be approved as submitted with the conditions, the 5 conditions of approval in the environmental planners report of December 31st, 2020.
And that which includes, just for
And the
clarity.
bond would be $10,000.
$10,000, yeah. Okay, motion made, seconded. There's
Robert
second.
Simon seconds the motion.
Motion made and seconded. Any other discussion? Call for the vote. Nick,
Yes.
Deborah,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Jim, yes. Okay, we'll move on. All right, we're gonna go back to item 1, application 827.1, 5, 25 and 21 Tully's Road. Yes, sir. Lucas.
Thank you very much for coming back to this application. Our team reviewed the conditions of approval that were sent over. Thank you very much for sending those over. We reviewed them. We made some recommended minor revisions to several of them to reflect the discussion from tonight, and I can go through those. I sent back a marked up version and a clean version as well. And then there are 3 conditions in there that I believe have already been satisfied, and we would recommend removing those. In terms of the revisions, proposed revisions, number 2.
Okay, hang just a moment,
Sorry.
No. Okay, so it starts out with 13, I think. And 12 plus extra. So number 1, you're fine with?
Yes.
Okay, number 2.
Number 2, we think it should say after where it says North Haven and Wallingford, we think it should say an attempt shall be made to clear existing stream debris, because we have to approach that property owner.
Okay, I don't see any problem with that. Aaron, any problem with that?
Well, the peer reviewer was adamant that that had to be cleared away. And
How
that,
are you gonna, yeah, but how are you gonna make it on somebody else's property?
well, it was suggested that the town could direct the Olbrich to, you better clear your culverts.
Okay, but then how do you put it on there as a condition of approval?
Well, maybe we should discuss why is it so very important that these cleared? Is it
Well,
critical? Is it critical?
I think his suggestion that they will make every attempt to get that cleared in front of Yulbrich. Yulbrich are very understanding people. I don't consider that as difficult a thing as some other issues. But if they go to Yulbrich and Yulbrich resists, and then Wallingford could step in. But I think his recommendation is fine.
All right, so how are we changing the wording?
Go ahead, Lucas.
Lucas?
After Wallingford,
Yep.
parentheses, it then will say an attempt shall be made to clear existing.
Okay, number 3.
Number 3, Matt Sanford summarized the data that we had submitted on December 29, so we believe we've already satisfied that condition.
I agree. I agree. That one comes out.
Okay,
Thank you.
Going out at number 4.
We're fine with that.
Okay. Number 5,
That's okay.
6,
6, to reflect the discussion, we thought that the words 10 years of should be removed.
what should be put there?
It should just say comparison during the post remediation monitoring.
Okay. All right, that's out.
Okay.
Number
Okay,
7, we discussed 10% as the number. So we suggest removing 5%. So
Was Matt in agreement on that?
yes, he agreed to that during the his discussion. So it would say no more than 10% during the monitoring period. So it would remove the 10-year as well.
And no more than 5 stays, it goes to 10%.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask, what is the hesitance in the application? Right throughout, it said 10-year. Now you're backing off that, Lucas?
No.
What's up with that? If you could explain that.
Sorry, the clarification is in the application materials, it says up to 10 years, but we have to meet certain metrics that Kyle had described before, such as invasive species control, stabilization of the site, establishment of wetland plants.
All right, so if you prove that you're doing a great job, you don't have to go the whole 10 years, in essence. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay, that's fine.
Also with the amount of bonds involved here, I don't think they're going too far away. So item 7 eliminates the 5% and the 10-year number.
Yes.
Number 8.
We suggest at the end that it says and/or deer fencing installed around the restoration area. In our plans that we submitted last week and that we provided to Malone and McBroom, we included deer fencing.
Oh, so just do the whole area in a tall deer fence. Is that what you're saying?
But also to leave a buffer so the deer could travel along Wharton Brook. So the deer fencing. So outside the deer fencing near Wharton Brook, we would install those deer cages or those cages over the plants. So the deer would be able to, they would not be cut off from the brook.
Okay.
You really believe that fencing down through there is the right material to have with the river flooding and being a floodplain? With the vegetation that's going to get hung on the fence is going to take a lot of stress.
We included a note that the fencing has to be maintained while it's up during the growing season.
How long do you think the fence is going to stay there?
The fencing would stay at least through the first growing season until those plants have been established.
You think that's all the fence needs to be there? You're talking about a 10-foot fence?
It would be I think it's a 7.5 foot or 8 foot fence.
All right.
Yep.
I just hate to see the fence hit a flood period and is it a wire fence or regardless of the fence, be dragged down the Quinnipiac River?
Well, the fencing, again, we have in the plans that we would maintain that fence. It would be staked in. It's a open plastic mesh, if you will, polyethylene mesh, so that would allow water to flow through it. And we believe that with the stakes that would be installed, that it would secure that fence.
What, I see, unfortunately, I'm disagreeing on this. The plastic fence, if water comes up and takes the fence out, that puts the fence in Quinnipiac River and then Long Island Sound with the plastic issues. Tell me about what the deer cages are. What are they made of?
So the deer cages themselves would be several feet high above the height of the plant. We're envisioning a wire type cage,
Like a
almost
tomato,
like a
tomato steak?
something like that with a top as well. But when you think about those cages, with all the plants that we're installing, I mean, we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of plants. You would have hundreds and hundreds of these little cages, and that didn't seem practical to us.
Well,
Jim,
but you
don't
think the deer will attack all those plants?
Don't they have a spray that they can spray on the plants that deteriorates the, that the deer doesn't like the smell or the taste and they'll leave it away? I think Ally can address some of this.
So I've got quite a bit of experience with this, from not just from the farm, but from some studies that the DEP did several years ago on deer impact in Quinnipiac River State Park before it was the state park. The deer fencing, I know what you're talking about. It's a very fine wire mesh. It's almost invisible when it's a fine black wire, and water would pass through it very, very easily. The concern is if debris comes down, that any larger pieces of debris could pretty much rip it, or get hung up on it, and then then there's a lot of friction there. But otherwise, it's really fine. It's like what you'd lace up. It's not as fine as like chiffon, like you put over berries to keep birds out, but it's a pretty fine material. DEP actually enclosed several areas of plantings in all of Quinnipiac River State Park is pretty much a floodplain, with basically a cattle cage type of wire mesh, and you can bend cattle panels around into a circle, and I've seen that done as like heavy duty tomato cages.
Yep.
And the deer can't reach through it, and it allows the plants to come through. And eventually that does degrade, but it's a metal, it rusts out and it just disintegrates over 20 or 30 years or so. And that was very successful in keeping the deer out. Eventually, you could see the impact. It allowed the deer not to eat what was inside, but they ate what was outside. And that was the whole point of comparing an area with deer as an area without deer, when all other things were the same.
Well, Ally, what do you recommend here?
So there is a material you can use. There's pellets, or like a granular material that could deer scram, or there's a couple of different types of materials. Deer scram's one of them, and we use that at the farm, and it lasts about 3 months or so. And you just like scatter it around, and it's a natural product. I think it's based on animal products, blood and stuff like that trigger warning to deer, and they tend to stay out. And it's been really successful over at the farm to keep deer out of the field. And we go around and we spread it, in the beginning of the year, in the middle of the year, and then that pretty much sets it up. So if they were to spread that out, and we didn't have any major floods or anything, it lasts through the rain and everything, but it might get washed away maybe if there was a major rain with a lot of, but that works pretty good. And that lasts, a couple of months.
What do you think, Lucas? Is that something you're willing to try before the fencing?
I think we would be. I think that's a reasonable approach. And we could incorporate that into the condition that we could submit, I guess, an application plan or a plan to apply deer repellent prior to construction, if that would be.
Well,
If you have sensitive, woody materials that you really want to protect, those wire cages, I mean, they made them about 10 feet by 10 feet, the DEP did. So you wouldn't need hundreds of little ones for every individual plant, but you could put some around some of the more sensitive materials. There are still native plants that deer don't like to eat, we see them eating white cedar all the time, but they don't seem to like red cedar. So, there's always more deer resistant things that you could put in between those things and just protect those few that seem to really attract deer.
Okay. So number 8, I think it's got to read something that we need the wetland restoration plan to be protected from the deer in some manner. Okay, without specifying cages or what? What do you think,
Jim,
Nick?
Jim, what do they use for the apple orchards? Because I know Lyman's and them places, they spray something on the tree that actually deteriorates the deer from eating it. I mean, my uncle used to take soap bars from the hotels and tie them to the branches, but I know there's no newer technology than that now. I think, Lucas, if you looked into just some type of spray, you may be able to spray on that won't harm the shrub or the bush. And that's going to be the most maintenance-free thing for you to do. You can go down there with a 5-gallon backpack and, spray a quarter of an acre with a 5-gallon backpack. So I'd look into it a little bit more than, I'm opposed to the wire fencing, because then we're going to have to go down to Ubrix and take the dam out, the culvert that's got the wire caught in it, and it's all choked up with branches and stuff. So it's just a suggestion.
Okay.
All right, so you're going to deal with that in a different manner. Okay, number 9.
Can we, for number 8, can we just word that? Somebody say with a note indicating deer control with spray.
A chemical solution versus
chemical solution, pellets, soap, bars.
Yeah.
With chemical solutions, plural. There we go, right? We got all that.
Yeah.
Indicating deer control with chemical solutions.
That's fine. Okay, number 9.
Number 9, we did include a buffer of 20 feet within the revised invasive species plan that we submitted last week. So we would recommend to remove this condition.
Okay, Aaron?
Oh, okay. So it's in there. All right, good.
Yes.
Let me take it away.
Number 10.
Number 10, we included this exact note on the revised plans that we submitted last week. And
okay, so that
recommend,
can stay in there. It's already on the plan.
it is.
It's already
Yes.
satisfied that condition. So number 11.
No issue with that.
Okay, 12. That's the bonds.
I wasn't sure what the staff comments were.
They were just comments off the cuff comments. I think because I was just hit with this today. This came in today, so this afternoon. So I'm like, oh, okay. The metrics, the idea of metrics and how you measure it. So we need to talk about this a little bit.
About what, Aaron?
Well, Lucas came with a letter today, came to me today, faxed me, that, wait a second, the $33,000 bond, that's okay, but he wants it to expire at a certain point.
Who does?
Lucas.
Okay.
In other words, to expire all these bonds, to have a point where they expire, like we don't hold the money forever, right? Lucas, you got a point where he proves, well, we've met whatever's been asked and they can be released, right? Is that the intent, Lucas?
That's the idea, is that we would meet metrics that would satisfy, for example, that the site soils have been stabilized, and then that bond would have been satisfied. And it looks like for that first one, letter A, for sediment erosion control bond, looks like several seasons, 3 years at a minimum. I think, several seasons seems reasonable, Aaron.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if this metric could be reworded such to incorporate something like that.
well, we could just say instead of the first, the third post restoration, right?
That makes sense to me.
Debbie, did you get that? You know where we are with this?
Can you repeat that?
Yeah. Do you see under A, the $33,000 bond?
Yes.
Okay, under that, in the italics, it says the first post restoration growing season, we're gonna make it the third post restoration growing season.
Okay.
First goes to third. Okay. B,
And of course, you'd cross out applicant's suggested metric, you cross that out. It would just say satisfactory compliance, blah, blah.
well, it'll come back here. Okay, B, wetlands planning bond.
Aaron, would that be the same change to 3 growing seasons?
That was my suggestion, yeah.
That makes sense to me.
All right. C,
I don't think there were any comments on C or D.
okay. All right. Okay, so commissioners, I think we've been through the application. We know that they're in agreement or to most of the conditions of approval, some modifications. I think everybody's okay with it. If not, shout out if everybody, if there's a problem. If not, then I'll entertain a motion to determine significant activity of this application.
Deborah Phillips. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that application A 20-7.1, 5 and 21 Tully's Road in Wharton Brook, Pfizer Incorporated Soil Remediation Project be deemed not a significant activity.
And there's a second.
Robert Simon seconds the motion.
Motion made and seconded. Any other discussion? Call for a vote. Ally,
Yes.
Debbie,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes.
Nick,
Yes.
and Jim, yes. Okay, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve or deny this application.
Deborah Phillips, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that application A 20-7.1, 5 and 21 Tully's Road in Wharton Brook, Pfizer Incorporated Soil Remediation Project be approved with the conditions of approval in the report of January 6, 2021. There are 12 of them. One will be as written. 2, there'll be a change in the line after Wallingford. An attempt shall be made to clear the existing stream debris. Number 3 will be omitted. 4 and 5 would be stand as there. 6, we have a correction, the correction on the baseline of comparison during the post-mediation monitoring. On 7, we will change it to limited to no more than 10% during the monitoring period. Number 8, that the wetland restoration plan would have some kind of protection from deer, either chemical or in some manner, deer protection. Number 9 and number 10 would be omitted. Number 11 would be fine. Number 12, 12A, the sedimentation and erosion control bond. It would be $33,000. Satisfactory compliance will be achieved when the site soils have stabilized following the 3rd post-restoration growing season. B, the wetlands plantings bond, it would also be the satisfactory compliance would be the third growing season. C and D will stand as submitted.
Very good job, Deb. Thank you. Okay, motion made. Is there a second?
I just had an issue with the deer control bit. Deb, you said something like deer control with chemical solutions or in some manner. I think that's what you said. I thought we wanted it to be, not leave it open like some manner, like the 8-foot fence, or how do we want that?
They may opt to do a combination depending on what's.
I agree with you, Ally. I think it's fine the way it is, because it may come down that they'll have to come back and say that the chemicals didn't work, or we haven't found the right chemical yet. We need to put up some kind of mechanical type structure. Oh, I don't see anything wrong with the way that was written. Okay?
Yeah, good. I'm good.
Any other discussion? Call for a vote. Ally?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Robert?
Yes.
Nick?
Do you folks, Mr. Chairman, did you folks have a seconder on that motion?
No, I'm not sure we did. I thank you for that, Kathy. I thought of that going on. Was there a second? Can I have a second on this motion, please?
Robert Simon seconds the motion.
Thank you. Thank you, Kathy.
All right, then you proceed with the vote.
Well, I'll start over again now that there's a second. Ally?
Okay.
Yes.
Debbie?
Yes.
Robert?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
And Jim? Yes. Okay. I think that takes care of our agenda tonight.
Thank you very much and have a great night.
Thank you, Lucas.
Okay, new business, Aaron, nothing, new business?
No, we got no new applications.
Okay, so that's no new applications. I'd like to hear about the Farm Hill Road detention basin. Anything new with that?
Yes, actually, I don't know if the town engineer is still here. Allison, she informed me today that the town crew has been out there surveying, the engineering department survey crew. They're going to create an existing conditions plan, so they've already started on that. First step one.
Okay, violations have stayed the same? Nothing changed?
No movement.
Okay. All right, if there's nothing else to come before us tonight, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Deborah Phillips, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Is there a second?
Robert Simon seconds the motion.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 I appreciate the game tonight. It was a crazy kind of an agenda, and I'm glad we got through it smoothly. And it'll keep our agenda down for next month. But very good. Thank you, Aaron.
Hey.
Very good, everybody. Super.
Good night.
Until next time.
Everybody have a, be safe and stay well.
Be safe and stay well. Very good advice.